Hi guys, I'm live. How you guys doing? I just want to do some fun rant, just fun stuff. I don't really have anything deep to say right now, really. I just want to talk and have a good time talking, talking to you guys and relax a little bit, you know. I think that I'm going through a cool thing right now. I'm going through like a mental cleansing or something, because I'm able to remember the good times of my youth, not just the negative stuff now. So I think that means my mind is like easing up on itself or something. I'm relaxing. I'm de-stressing or de-escalating or compressing, they call it sometimes. I think I'm in a good space right now. I'm just chilling and I remember the good times of Harvey Mudd too. It wasn't all dad hitting me and stress out and taking ulcer pills, you know. There was fun in it too. And just in honor of that, I want to say thanks to some specific people that in Harvey Mudd that I remember. And yes, you can Google it and see if it tracks with who was really going on. But here it goes. First of all, I want to thank my English rhetoric. They called it rhetoric. They didn't call it English. They called it rhetoric. Teacher Susan Hunter. That was her name, Susan Hunter. And she taught me by giving me an A only on my final paper. She was my English, rhetoric. On my final paper, which was Hamlet by Shakespeare. I didn't care anymore is the problem. I just took my book, Hamlet, and maybe I grabbed, I just grabbed a notebook or some paper or something. I didn't really care. I just walked to the computer room. Yes, they had computers. They just weren't like today. And I just sat down and wrote for 2 hours, just whatever the hell I thought. I didn't even care. I used to spend like all day on every other paper. I'd spend hours thinking of every word and every possible combination of what am I going to say and make it sound good. I didn't care anymore. The last paper anyway, I didn't care. I just went down and typed for a couple hours, printed it out, threw it at her. You know, here it is. Thank you. Have a good time. She gave me an A-. First A I'd ever gotten in rhetoric at Harvey Mudd College, ever. I mean, ever. I've never, that was the last paper I was ever going to do for her. And it taught me that sometimes it's best just to let things go. And I'll never forget, as long as I have sanity and or mind, that lesson she taught me. You know, Susan Hunter, my rhetoric teacher at Harvey Mudd. And who else? Jack Waggoner was the weirdest professor. You know, you have to have a nerdy, weirdo professor too. He was entertaining. We always laughed at him. I didn't really, because I wasn't cool enough to be in the crowd of in-crowd people laughing at the latest geek. But I laughed inside, kind of thing, you know. He was funny. He would just be so nerdy. It was just off the charts. It was a total square. Jack Waggoner. That's my initials, by the way, JW. I want to thank Gerald Van Hecke. Yes, Van Hecke, like Van Halen, only Van Hecke, Gerald Van Hecke. He was my physical P-Chem professor, physical chemistry. It's the hardest class you'll ever take at Harvey Mudd College. It just is. I don't know why, it just is. It's it's chemistry for non-chem majors. So it's not organic chemistry, it's physical chemistry. Organic chemistry is living things, and physical chemistry is just matter. Oh my God, that was a hard class. But here's the thing. I did really well in it. I actually got the highest score in the class. I got the highest score in the class in that class. Maybe that's why it came to me so quickly to talk about it, LOL. But Joe Van Hecke really was, he made you toe the line, you know, like he had integrity. You had to man up and learn the stuff, otherwise get out of my office, you know. And he was cool. I respected him, Gerald Van Hecke. And then who else? Dean Dan Gann. How does that sound like? That sounds like a military thing. Dean Dan Gann. He was the dean of students at Harvey Mudd College when I went there. but you didn't mess with that guy. That guy was bad, man. I mean, he had to, and the funny thing is I kind of did mess up at first at Harvard McCall. My first semester, my first year, first semester probably, yeah, it would have been my first semester, 1984. I wasn't keeping my room up. I was making a mess in my room. Like I wasn't cleaning up after myself, and I probably had some of my drinks or whatever I had, or pillows or whatever, out in the what do you call it, the lobby, where the main room is, where it's everybody's space. But I would sometimes sleep there even. I didn't care if I slept in the lobby or if I slept in my room, and I was kind of a mess. And but I got close to getting kicked out by Dan Gann right off the bat. But I found this out because it turns out my dad, who actually had mutual respect with Dean Gann, I have a feeling, called and saved my ass, saved me. So Jim, just give Jim one more chance. Tell Jim to straighten up and don't kick him out. Give him a chance. So my dad interceded for me with Dean Gann, and it turned out, yeah, as long as I cleaned up, I would be okay. I could still. Me. So thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. You know, I knew when to respect somebody. But I almost got kicked out of school by Dean Gann for being such a mess in my freshman year. Who else? Probably Dr. Sedendekti. Actually, Sede is actually Sadat, but I don't know how you pronounce it. It's Iranian. It's spelled Sadat Sedendekti, but it might be pronounced Sedendekti. He was Iranian, and he taught systems engineering. That's what I actually majored in. That's what I actually ended up being really good at Harvard College. But it wasn't a straight line or an easy shot, because my first introduction to Sedendekti was when I took Introduction to Systems Engineering my first semester of my sophomore year, which was the first semester I got grades for. And Sede reamed me. He gave me like a C+, and every other grade I got was an A. So I did really good my first semester sophomore year. I got a 3.38 GPA, 3.38. It was ranked 21 out of 140 students in the class, the freshman class at Harvard College. So he reamed me, R-E-A-M-E-D. That was mean when they really, mess you up with your grades. So I said, screw it. The next summer, which was the summer after my sophomore year, I studied the whole book that was for the next systems class that was coming, called E101. Not Introduction to Systems, but actual E101 Systems Engineering. I read the whole book in the summer before the junior year. So I already knew enough to know what I didn't know and what I did know, and I knew enough to know I didn't know, but I knew I didn't know, so I could learn it so I could know, kind of thing, I had to jump on everybody, and I got the high score in the class on E101 too. And that was, I'm not sure who taught that. I'm not gonna go on about that. I'm not really sure. But now that I mentioned that, I want to discuss my favorite professor is Dr. John Molander. He was the chairman of the engineering department when I was at MUD. And his dad was a preacher, and he was supposed to be a preacher, but he ended up being an engineer instead, kind of thing. And we talk about life and stuff, but he taught E156, which was Introduction to Communications and it was just called Introduction. Yeah. No, it was just called Communications and Information Theory. Communication and Information Theory. In other words, everything about systems engineering was in this class. I mean, it was as deep as you can go, practically. And again, I got the highest score in the class. I got on the first test, I finished with 20 minutes to spare, maybe 15. Turned it in early. Turned out I got 97 on the exam. I missed one plus or minus sign on the whole test. Otherwise, I would have gotten 100, but I got 97 on the first exam. And that was for seniors and fifth year students primarily. There was only 2 of us that were given special permission to take it as juniors, and I was one of them. And even as one of the 2 only juniors in the class, I got the highest score in the class. And I got one problem right on the final that no one else got in the whole class. And I did really good in that class, and I respected John Mullender. He was the chairman of the engineering department and taught E156. Am I boring you guys? Sorry if I am. Anything else? I'm just doing my dues here. This is people I respect and from my past, and I'm remembering the good times now. I'm remembering the good stuff, not just the, oh my God, it was such a hard life kind of thing. I'm actually having fun thinking of all this. Anybody else? I had a physics professor named Professor Peterson, physics. He taught me the difference between metaphysics and physics right before summer vacation one year. He just comes up to me and says, hey, he had a feeling maybe that I would be interested in this. He said, there's a difference between physics and metaphysics, Jimmy. Physics is just how things happen, period. Metaphysics is why they happen that way. Metaphysics is different. Physics doesn't deal with why, it deals with how. Metaphysics deals with why. And I thought, that's cool. I tucked that away as information to be used at a later date. I thought that was interesting that he told me that. So cool. Let's look at my screen here. So, getting a call right now. I guess let me just go. I had to take that call. So, so he taught me the difference between physics and metaphysics there. Anybody else at MUD? Mainly professors and people like that, or staff I'm talking about right now. Let me think. Anybody else? I also got the highest score in his class. I got 95 on the exam in linear algebra. It's the next step after calculus. Take its sophomore year of math. And he was cool. He was always trying to encourage me to relax. He was like, dude, just, take a pill or something. Relax, chill. You're not going to cure type of thing, And he was always trying to get me to unwind and slow down, which I thought was kind of cool of him, because he was trying to not just make me the great student. He was trying to keep me from tanking because of stress, So I appreciate that. And another guy, and then there was Alvin Pixley, Albanpixley, taught freshman calculus. He was cool. He kind of reminded me of, he was cool because he kind of reminded me of my Uncle Don a little bit. He had the same kind of hair and kind of look that Uncle Don had. I thought that was cool, like Uncle Don in school, and that's cool. He was a good teacher, freshman calculus. And then I had a freshman physics professor named Jim Eckert, Eckert. Eckert, or is it Eckart? Eckert, I think. Oh, no, Jim Eckert. He was physics professor freshman year, and he was also like Alan White, always trying to get me to relax, because he said he went to University of Southern California, USC, and he said he was majored in physics, and he got a 3.96 GPA. That's how good he was. He got a 3.96 GPA at USC in physics. But he said the cost he paid for that was that he got a bleeding ulcer, that it might have killed him if it would have popped. If the ulcer would have popped, he had about a 1/3 chance of living. And he was always telling me that to try to get me to relax, Like, Jim, it's not worth it, You're not like Alan White was doing. He said, yeah, you're not going to care in a few years what your score was on this exam, even though you care right now, type of thing, So I thought he was cool. And he was a funny professor. He was not funny like Jack Wagoner, but just a comedian. Like, he would always make the students laugh and entertain, and it was fun to go to his classes. In fact, that's why his people that took him versus the other professors always did better on the test than the other professors, because they enjoyed being in class. They enjoyed class because he made it fun. He knew how to joke with physics. He knew how to make it funny. And that made his students relax, and we always outscored the other professors' students. I got lucky enough to be one of his, but the others were just bored and didn't do as well. But Jim Eckert, his students kicked ass, and I appreciate his influence. I still remember what he said to me today. Like, I'm telling you guys, I remember all this stuff from 40 years ago. And the fact that he was telling me to relax, the point is well taken, because that's basically how I live, Jim. He's dead, Jim. No, it's from Star Trek. That's how I ended up being, is what these professors were trying to get me to do, is relax and just chill. That's actually how I ended up. I didn't start out that way though, and that's what they were trying to avoid, was this implosion that I was about ready to go through, And I appreciate them trying to divert such dire straits, So anyone else now that I'm thinking, I don't want to leave anybody out. I won't think too hard, because then again, Jim Eckert wouldn't want me to. Anyone else that strikes me? Now, the students were cool, but the students were kind of, all the American students just wanted to compete with me or get me to join Brain Damage. There wasn't much there. And most of the students were male. There was only a couple girls in the whole class at Harvard Mud. But I had a couple friends that were from other countries, and one from this country. I'll talk about 3 friends I had. First, I'll talk about Mark. Then I'll talk about a nemesis too. I was in room 308, South Dorm, freshman year. One of my 3 suite mates. Here, I'll just lay it out. It was Mark Cummings, Mark Yasuda, and Eric Hendrickson. Those are my 3 suite mates in South Dorm, room 308, 1984. Mark Cummings, whatever, nerd. Didn't really talk to him much. Mark Yasuda became a good friend. We hang out, we play pool and stuff. We got good friends. Eric Hendrickson, I think his middle initial is L, now that I know it. Eric L. Hendrickson was my nemesis. He was my nemesis of my life, basically. His IQ was reportedly 180 plus, so maybe not Walter O'Brien 197, but between genius and Walter O'Brien, basically 180 plus. And I don't know my IQ. Kind of glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have liked it either way. No matter what it was. I'm really glad I didn't know, but whatever. But he was always picking on me, making fun of me and laughing with Mark Cummings about me. And there is a gym out in the lobby, like treat me like an object at that point, like making fun of me and putting me down and everything. But he was my nemesis. Now I think he's got his PhD from Harvard genetics engineering. I think he's got a PhD from Harvard genetics engineering. He's a scientist, basically. He was a chem major, but genetics, yeah. He's probably doing good work for the world, and I respect him. I respect him. It's funny. It's like my dad. He was mean to me, but now I respect him. I respect Eric Anderson. He was badass with intelligence. Closest thing I've met to Walter O'Brien that he was like that. He was like he was almost like mechanical. Like you wasn't sure he was a human sometimes. In fact, I kind of lost Mark Yasuda as a friend later on, because I suggested that Eric Hendrickson, even 10 years ago or so, I suggested Eric Hendrickson might have been a nanotechnological machine. And that made Mark think I'm nuts and just stop talking to me. But I didn't know that. But whatever, he could have been. I don't think he was, but he had that air, like he was like he just computed all the time. He didn't really think, like he didn't feel, or he could have been a machine and done that. And sorry, Mark, for blowing, not being whatever. He's not my friend anymore over that, but whatever. I was just discussing the possibility he might have been AI. That's all I was saying. But I guess for that I'm unfriendable. So there's that. Anyone else? Oh, and then I had 2 friends that were cool, that were from other countries, so they weren't like jerk Americans. No offense, but that's how I told you the American guys just wanted to compete with me. It was just like, no, but that was whatever. But I had a friend named Carl Wee from Hong Kong, and Leonardo Zuniga from Costa Rica. They were good friends. Very smart. I mean, thinking like maybe the top three smartest people in their country, kind of smart, very, very intelligent. And they were my friends, and it was good to have them as friends. So a lot of brainiac conversations probably occurred that would be fun to read right now in transcript form, because God knows what we were talking about, but we had some really interesting conversations, me and Carl and me and Leo, of just that most people wouldn't follow, but we did, so I think it's interesting. It was nice to, be their friend. And then last and maybe least, but maybe not least, I want to thank my physical ed teacher. I don't even remember what his name was, but we took physical education, PE. I had to take mine at Pitzer or something. I don't know, not Harvey Mudd, but one of the other colleges. Strips, maybe, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Claremont McKenna College, maybe. But I thank him for pushing me harder than any other kid in the class. We had to get tested first for all of the things we could do, how fast we could run, how far we could jump, and all that. And then based on how good we started, he'd make a goal for us, which if we didn't make it, we'd flunk the class. But he didn't tell us he was going to do that. He made us try as hard as we could at first, but then he made us improve by a certain amount or we would flunk. And it just so happened he made me percentage-wise do 3 times more than any other student as far as the percentage of improvement I was responsible for. And he only did that to me. Compared to any other student, had 1/3 or less as much improvement as I had to do. And I thank him now because it got me out of my shell. I had to go running. I went on 45-minute runs like every other day, or I don't know the details right now of exactly how. Maybe it was every night, I don't know. But I had to really boost up my performance to pass that class, and I'm thankful that he did that to me, because it was probably a catalyst and a precursor to me walking around all day and being Shirtless Guy. So I love you guys. Peace, love, and rock and roll.